Now, some key things about when you sell, okay, or how to build a book.
Yep.
I will tell you, if you are selling primarily over the phone, not that there's anything wrong with it, but your book is much less valuable.
I would agree.
Okay? Getting to even a multiple of 2 is rough. It's rough. You're probably it's not very attractive unless you're selling directly to your IMO. And again, it'll be a very low multiple.
Or you have like a big call center or something maybe.
Well, then that's something that can run without you, right? You're the
Correct.
executive, all that kind of stuff, different thing.
Yeah.
If it's you, the professional,
And
with
I'm
a book
selling
of
over
your
the phone.
clients, you're not. Also, if you're in a company where you don't own the revenue, you don't own renewals, you can't take off. If you don't have ownership of the revenue stream, then
Great point. There's nothing to sell.
there's nothing to sell.
Yeah. What is up? Welcome back to the CA Power Player Podcast. I'm your host, Cody Askins, and today we have back in studio once again, man. Good dude. I'm excited to bring back. He always does phenomenal at training and delivering basics and content today, and he's very well prepared for this podcast as well. Here's what you can expect. We're talking about like retirement planning and exit strategies when it comes to like owning renewals, succession planning, how to sell your book, how to maximize multiples. So if you are if you're starting to make a little bit of money, but you're wanting to make sure that what you are doing, you are setting it up the right way to maximize, if you ever want to sell your book of business, your agency, we're going to go over some amazing ways to set up your future in this business. Could from a financial standpoint, will be one of the most valuable interviews you have and podcasts you have ever heard. And so please welcome registered investment advisor and managing partner of Legacy Insurance and Financial Services, Mr. Larry Gray.
Thanks, Cody.
Thank you, man.
This is a subject that I started leaning into 4 years ago. So
was it always on your mind though? Like, because initially it's probably not something that's on your brain.
No, it wasn't always on my mind. No, absolutely not. But and I'm still youngish, 46.
Yeah.
Depends who you ask.
In the industry, yes. In this room, maybe not.
About 17, 18 years into the industry, and I'm not going anywhere. So, no, it wasn't on my mind. But I was charged with an important obligation, which is to support and take care of other people's careers in this industry. And we had an increasing number of agents who were at the end of that career and trying to figure out what retirement's going to look like or retiring. And I started becoming more acutely aware of the challenges. And my father included, who's been retired really maybe 5-6 years, officially about 2.5 years ago, really made the clean cut. And so that got me more interested in looking at exit strategies and selling your business and multiples and understanding that. And so the last about 4 years, I've got a lot of exposure to it, and I've made it a plan to get good at it from both ends. Yeah. From people who are still young in the business, they're nowhere near an exit, but they need to start figuring out their financial planning. Yeah. And then people who are, whether they've built a big book and they're 40 and they want to sell it and exit part of it, or they're 65 and they want to do a normal retirement. Yeah. So part of the problem let's start with the normal retirement, is the options, none of them are on their surface really attractive. Okay, you could die at your desk, which I've seen guys do. Right? They don't want to leave their clients hanging. Yeah. They don't want to get rid of their renewals, and they'll keep telling themselves year after year they really enjoy what they do. Right? Of course they do, and of course they enjoy and value the relationships and what they do for people, but it does, it keeps them tied to that business, and they can do less, and it's just not clean. And a lot of them do get to a point, and they're 80 plus, and no matter how much they try, they're falling further behind, right?
Yeah.
And their clients are wondering, and they're falling off, and all that. So you can die at your desk, or you could sail off into the sunset.
I like
just
that
disappear.
better, personally.
Well, so
far.
I mean, okay, a better way to put it: disappear. You could say,
Oh.
"I'm done. I'm over. Whatever happens, happens. You guys have your policies."
Never mind.
Which I don't think is immoral.
No.
They have their policies.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
I would say that's how most agents operate. Majority of our industry is transactional.
Yeah.
And so there's nothing immoral or wrong about that. But obviously,
You're just
it
leaving
means,
it to fizzle out and die. Though.
It does.
Like, instead of you dying, the business is just dying.
But believe it or not, it's actually better than the third option. The third option is to sell your business. Now, I just told you that the just disappearing is, for most agents, financially more attractive than selling your
Do you
book.
agree with that?
In a lot of cases, it is. Here's why. Okay. So now
I would have never thought about this. This is very
now
intriguing.
I'm looking at this from the perspective of someone who's built a Medicare book,
Yeah.
and then things on top of that Medicare book.
Got it.
Okay. So my agency would do Medicare, life, long-term care, annuities are our main four, and then we got the financial planning around it.
Yep.
So just looking at the insurance side, if you sell your book, the problem is multiples aren't very attractive. Now, when I talk about multiples, it's a multiple of years of renewals. So if you're earning 100,000 renewals, a multiple of 1 would be you sell your book for $100,000. A multiple of 2 would be selling your book for $200,000. So 2 years of renewals, right? And businesses operate when they sell on multiples. Okay, that's how businesses are quickly valued when people talk about it. What's my multiple? Is it going to be 7? Is it going to be 12? Is it going to be whatever?
Yep.
Problem is that's a business with a P&L that can run without you.
Yeah.
Okay. But insurance inherently for an insurance agent doesn't run without you, and you are the pro that is the relationship with these clients, keeping that in force.
And those bigger multiples, you are it's a bigger business as well.
It's a bigger business. Size
doing
matters.
More revenue,
Absolutely.
P&L, et cetera. Yeah.
Right. And again, ideally, it's a business that can run without you. That's why people get those multiples. It's both profitable, it's larger, and it's a business where, not that they always want it to. Okay, I chose to stay on my business. Right, I partnered with Integrity. I chose to stay on, but they wouldn't have bought it if they didn't think that they could find someone to replace me if they had to.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not what they want to do, but if they had to. So I'm sure that was part of their valuation.
Sure.
Okay, if you are a regular agent doing an awesome job for your clients and you've built a great book, and you sell it, your multiples are most often somewhere between less than 1 to about 2.5.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've seen
2.5 is actually a pretty strong offer. 3 is almost a unicorn. Okay.
And we're talking books that are doing a couple $100,000, $500,000 a year.
It could be 25,000. It could be 200,000. Yeah. Now, if you get well above 200,000 in revenue stream renewals per year, okay, not commissions. FYC, first year commission does not count. Okay, you're not selling your book based on FYC.
Game, then. That's a whole nother. That I don't
because FYC completely depends on you creating it. I'm talking about an individual agent.
What about
not an agency?
What about? Oh, got it. Understood. Because agencies, it may be LOAs or agents that are doing that.
It's great talking about agencies, M&A, all that stuff. But I'm talking about
this contains
regular
our
people,
audience, by the way.
right?
Yeah.
Regular people selling their book, looking at retirement. So the multiples are not very attractive. Depending on the makeup, you could get less than 1. You could get a 0.8, 0.7. They'll give you less than 1 year's renewals.
And it's just based off the residual.
Even 1.5, 2.5.
Yeah.
2.5's high. So that's why I say just disappearing,
Yeah.
you'll get 5 times more. Now, the renewals will go down over time.
Continue.
That's right. They'll go down, but you'll get more.
Because we also we've acquired about 8 P&C agencies over the years in Southwest Missouri.
Okay.
Just on my family side, and I don't know P&C, by the way, for the
Me
record.
neither.
However, I have learned a little bit about this world just being involved in that, and you are right, because a lot of these were doing hundreds of thousands of revenue, and we're doing millions, and they were individual agents or very small agencies, small office, brick and mortar, et cetera. And a lot of the times it was 1.5 to around 2x. Yeah. So numbers are spot on.
And then there is a fourth way. So I've described 3, and then a fourth would be a succession plan with a junior partner who takes over your book. That has its own complexity. It's not just a panacea, and it's not for everybody. And if you don't have the right junior partner and a few things don't go right, I think you had someone on for about an hour a week or 2 ago. You had some guys on talking about succession planning, and that was worthwhile.
On the podcast? Or a webinar or something?
You were doing, a webinar or something like that.
It was.
And I popped in.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, that's right.
I thought it was.
They're also integrity partners.
Are they?
Yeah, Rose Boys. That's right.
Okay.
There was a webinar. That's right.
I was only able to see about the first half.
Yeah. I remember you popping in though. Yeah.
And
I was like, oh, that's cool. Larry Gray's in here. That's great.
So here's my take. Okay. Let's start with the succession planning. On the succession planning, some of my folks like it because it takes care of clients.
Yeah.
Right. And you could actually see your revenue increase in retirement.
That's right.
You get the right successor. They have the right incentives. You're fair to each other. Then it works out real well. So, for example, you might do a 50-50 split on replacements. Now, that may say, I don't want my renewals losing half my renewals. I learned my first iteration of this was suggesting that we do a 20-80. So the junior agent was disincentivized to do replacements, only getting 20%.
Yeah, good point.
But
I'd rather just stay on the books, yeah.
It also meant they were very disincentivized to help the clients out because they were paying attention to their new business, which makes sense. So 50-50 became, now if it's Medicare Advantage, then it's a little more complex. You got to decide if you're going to keep up getting your certifications every year, which a lot of people when they retire really don't want to do that.
No.
Or not, then you got to work out the finder's fees instead. But you can adjust that elsewhere. On new business that they get in your households, because you probably weren't, as much as you think about yourself, you probably weren't 100% on all possible sales in the household, right?
Yeah.
All possible referrals. No. So that's the attractiveness of your book to a new agent. There's going to be some service work. But what I've observed, when you have a good new agent, I have seen some bad junior agents. I've seen places, and I've learned how to better select and set things up. And if you get a bad junior agent, then it doesn't work at all, right? You want someone who's hungry. You want someone who's reliable, who's in the business to win it, who works. And then what they'll do is they'll sell new policies. And what happens is they split you 20%. As long as you keep your life and health license, that's it. That's not hard to keep. Do some CE every 20 years. The CE is not hard to do. Attend a few NAFA meetings each year. Take a 6-hour course in 1 hour, right? And then you got your CE.
Correct.
And I know some states are different and everything, but I think that's kind of your typical scenario. So you cannot worry about the Medicare stuff. You can do finder's fees on that. You can make up for it on the other end. And I've seen some of our folks now that are retired grow their revenue stream, which is fun. I had a guy who left on a mission, a senior mission for my church, and he's in the same church. Awesome. We've had a bunch of people do that. They've used their renewals. I had a guy just come back from South Africa. One guy was just in the mountains at a scout camp type thing. His wife and I were at him and out for almost a year. They came back. They had higher income. Okay, both people, by the way. The guy came back. He's in Boise. was in South Africa for a year and a half.
Wow.
His income went up.
And they're in insurance.
And he didn't do any succession planning. He just set up a good plan for that year and a half with the other people in the office, seeing two things properly. And that's another thing about the agency system is if you're part of a good agency, people look out after you, you know?
Yep.
That's a piece of the succession planning, right? The other option is you can sell it, and some people will prefer to sell it. If you are in a system where you're IMO and you have an in-person agency and you've built your business at least somewhat ideally, okay, so I'll talk about the things you really want to do to increase your book value. Then you can get, say, 3.5 book value, which may not sound as attractive as letting those renewals ride, but especially if it's a lot of Medicare Advantage that we've seen with this last season, it's very disruptive. Unfortunately, I'm not sure next year will be any different.
Unbelievable.
So we're seeing disruption there. It probably won't be the only time. So the book is less secure anyway. And we've had some folks sell, and the person who buys, and the agency is the arbiter. So we'll just evaluate the book. We'll say we think it's valued at this, and then they have someone who wants to buy, and the seller, and we'll say, okay, you two get together and make final judgment on what you're going to buy it for, what you're going to sell it for, maybe plus or minus 20% of what the agency said it's worth. So at least they have someone who's a third party being an appraiser, right?
Yeah.
And what that allows the person to do is just to move on. Now, what I found out when we started doing this was that some agents don't want to ride off into the sunset. They just want to move on to a different part of the business. They want to focus on annuities, for example, and that's taking a lot of their attention, and a lot of it's being sucked up by this wonderful book of business built with Medicare. And they want to sell that, right? So you could get a junior partner, kind of do a mini succession plan, or you could sell it, and sell it is just clean.
Yeah.
And some people like that.
That's where most people's brain goes to when you talk about this. You talk about, is just selling. I'm going to sell my book of business.
Yeah.
That's where is it just because that's the most common way? I like the succession plan, by the way, a lot, but.
Initially, our main focus was actually on the succession planning.
I like it.
We put a lot of attention on development in that. And that I've had some sister agencies who did it more on the selling side, and I learned a lot from them. And there's that. Now, some key things about when you sell, okay, or how to build a book.
Yep.
I will tell you, if you are selling primarily over the phone, not that there's anything wrong with it, but your book is much less valuable.
I would agree.
Okay, getting to even a multiple of 2 is rough. It's rough. You're probably it's not very attractive unless you're selling directly to your IMO. And again, it'll be a very low multiple.
Or you have like a big call center or something maybe.
Well, then that's something that can run without you, right? You're the
Correct.
executive, all that kind of stuff, different thing.
Yeah.
If it's you, the professional,
and I'm
with a book
selling
of
over
your
the phone.
clients, you're not. Also, if you're in a company where you don't own the revenue, you don't own renewals, you can't take off. If you don't have ownership of the revenue stream, then
great point. There's nothing to sell.
There's nothing to sell.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Even succession planning is odd.
100%.
Right? So if you do own that, then and if you sell in person primarily, then if you're doing good fact finding, multiple sales in a household, so cross sales, increase the value. Right? Time you've been in the business increases the value.
They're
right?
checking all this, is what you're saying.
How many times have you been communicating or touching your clients per year? Is it lucky if they see you once a year? Or are you touching them 3 times a year? Every holiday season, each birthday, and then every Medicare, something like that. All that stuff's going to change the book value. And then when you do a succession plan or even a sales plan, the value, if you sell, and the success of the partnership will also have to do with the transfer. Are you making warm introductions with key clients? Are you sending out a letter with both your faces on it and an intro? In the letter, do you have a paragraph and a line kind of setting up the junior agent for sales that you generally miss? Maybe you weren't very hot on long-term care, and they need to go back and talk to your people about long-term care, right?
Smart.
So
Smart.
some of the stuff we've learned.
That's good, man. That's a lot too. Like it's and it's good. It's good to think through and plan, because you just gave me several ideas of things that I didn't really think about. And if you're an individual agent and you're like, dude, I just want to set myself up for success, I want to maximize my business. I mean, heck, maybe you do good, but maybe you don't have a passion for the industry at some point in the future. Like this is all part of what we're talking about. You know? Like it's
You want to move some on anything else, right?
Yeah.
I've seen people do that. I had a guy who was with us for about 10 years, literally go be a rocket science.
What? A
rocket scientist. He went back to college.
Wow.
And now he's a rocket scientist.
That's insane.
I had a guy who had always wanted to go into the clergy, was with us for about 6 years, and he couldn't for one reason or another. It's a church. I understand the things, but eventually he found the route to do that, and they're like, yeah, we can get you going on becoming a clergy, and that's what he went and did.
Wow.
And those folks enjoyed renewals that supported them. Do renewals last the whole lifetime? Probably not. Okay.
Yeah.
Some can last a long time. We're still paying out some of those people renewals, right?
Wow. I'm going to interrupt the podcast to tell you about our CABOOM leads that are literally blowing up. If you would love to never get disconnected numbers or wrong numbers ever again, then you will love our leads at CABOOM Leads. All of our lead types, we text the prospect a 6-digit security code. They go back in the funnel and put that in to verify that it is a real, accurate cell phone number, and they've responded to a text message. We do this for all of our lead types. If you haven't tried CABOOM Leads, you can use coupon code podcast to get 10% off of your very first order at CABOOMleads.com. Back to the show.
Here's the other half.
Okay.
Agents who are younger and aren't thinking about retirement, but should start doing the fundamentals. And a lot of salespeople, they spend what they make, and I was no exception.
Yeah, I was not either, by the way.
Yeah. Heck, I was
I
idiot
had to
on
have
taxes
cars.
for about 4 years.
Geez.
Yeah.
I remember the first tax meeting after I made $100,000. They're like, yeah, you owe $20,000. I'm like, I owe what?
Yeah. I know that the IRS will work with you. Let's put it that way. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Amen.
I learned a lot about that. And so, no one's in a 1099 business who doesn't end up having taxes be a side hobby, basically.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
But here's the thing. You got to be doing the dollar cost averaging. You got to be doing the mundane realist stuff, and it's really not complex. So let me, in short bite, kind of put together what I think is pretty close to the ultimate retirement plan for an agent or most anybody, a Roth, okay? First thing is take some money, whether it's $100 a week, but put it on autopilot and put it into a Roth. A Roth is just to clarify for everybody, a Roth is not an investment. A Roth is just a tax umbrella. You will pay taxes on those earnings that year, but in most circumstances, you'll never pay taxes on that money or the gains ever again, right? And a Roth should be the cornerstone. Actually, it's the center of your entire plan. Now, if as you start making more money, but Larry, there's limits on a Roth. I can only put $7,000 or $8,000, and it goes up about every year or two on what you can put to a Roth. In most of our 1099 people are not employees, right? So a Roth 401k, you can put as much as up to about $30,000. Okay. If you're, over 50, under it, I think it's about 26,000. Numbers change every year. And then now you can get a SEP called an SEP. Okay. An SEP is like an IRA. Better put, it's like a 401k for the self-employed. That's what it means. SEP, self-employed pension. Now, it really doesn't work like a pension in the traditional way, but that's what it's called.
Yeah.
And it was created essentially for 1099 people who want a higher ceiling on how much they can contribute to tax-favored savings. And it has been only on the IRA side, so pre-tax. Problem is, once you get to retirement, if all your money's been pre-tax, it's a tax time bomb, right? So you're paying on the harvest rather than on the seed. Roth allows you to pay on the seed. So the Secure Act 2.0, which went into effect, I think it's the end of 2023, allowed the SEP to now be Roth. So you can put after-tax Roth money into a SEP, and the limit goes up to, it changes each year, and it changes by a lot. It's really been skyrocketing. So I think currently it's over 70,000.
Wow.
So it's whichever is less, 25% of your income up to 70,000. And I think that will continue the cap rising. Wow. So as your income rises, put it away. So I think that's central. Either way, find a way to do a Roth as central. Some IRA money, which is pre-tax, you might enjoy some savings that year and you might want it. And it's okay to have part of your retirement plan be pre-tax money, the IRA, but don't make it the core of your plan. Like a lot of boomers now, they're going into retirement and most of their savings is IRA money, and that's a lot to pay taxes on. Yeah. I'd rather not pay taxes on all those gains. True. IULs are really popular right now. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to address those real quick. We're not going to dive into that, but I'm going to say this might be a hot take here for a lot of people. Go. Okay, most people are selling IULs wrong. They don't know what the hell they're selling, and they're making promises that I think will blow up. You had a gentleman on here a while back that I agree with. I think there's going to be a lot of yep, exactly. I think there's going to be a lot of lawsuits in the future. I think he's got the right of it on IULs. They're not bad, okay? And I even suggest them, okay?
Cool.
But I suggest them as a tactical vehicle. So I talked about the top 3% a while ago.
Yeah.
So here's how you become part of the top 3% is you have an IUL, you have a Roth, and maybe you don't have exactly enough money to just let things ride, all right? Now, that's a good way to become part of the 3% is have enough money to do whatever you want, all right? But that can be plan one. But plan B, have the IUL. And what happens if the market goes down? Stop removing money from your Roth or your IRA or other investments and let those recover while you take money out of the IUL. Yeah. And now it's tax-favored money while the other one grows back. But if you try and make the IUL the primary income distribution vehicle in retirement, it's going to fail. Okay, so I think it is a tactical reserve, and I think the secondary benefits that people talk about, okay, are more primary, and that is long-term care. So you hybrid long-term care insurance with your IUL, and of course there's the death benefit.
Yeah,
right?
True.
So those are higher value, I think, even than the income benefit because of the fee base and how it works. Whole life is the other side, okay? He's a big whole life fan, right?
Fan. Yeah, he was, yeah.
So whole life can be part of the plan. That's your cash component. So as you grow in income, because you're selling lots of annuities, right? We talked about this last time, right?
That's right.
You're building a bigger cash pile, split it roughly in half. Take half of it, have it in liquid cash. It's in CDs, which are liquid enough, and get a basic interest rate on it. Super liquid. You can get it like that anytime. Take the other half of your cash and siphon it into and out of, if you need to, a whole life product. That's what whole life is. Whole life is not going to take your money to the moon.
Yeah.
Right? It is a savings account plus. Right? So like if you want to do, so this is combining what we teach our clients, what we sell our clients into our own plan, but a Roth, whatever you do the Roth, if you want your Roth to be an indexed annuity, knock yourself out. So a Roth is not a product. You can have real estate, you can have your Bitcoin, you can have whatever you want inside your Roth, inside your IRA. Put those things together. When you do retire, your Social Security will be optimized to pay perhaps no taxes on your Social Security. Yeah. And everything else, you'll have very low tax base, and you'll be you'll be able to, pivot with the changes that the government has in the future, right?
Yeah.
So
That's cool.
the biggest thing is to start somewhere and put it on autopilot in an auto deduct program.
Smart.
There you go.
I love it. A lot of phenomenal information. And I don't think we've ever had anyone on the podcast that have talked about that are like looking out for the agent and agency owner in this way, because it's like the what is the saying where it's like the I don't know, the cobbler's kid with no shoes or whatever the saying is. I don't know. I'm butchering it probably, but you get the idea, right?
Yeah. No, I know exactly what you're talking about. I've been guilty of that, right?
Yeah.
You might sell life insurance, but you never bought your own life insurance, right?
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The shoemaker, whatever. That those kids are, going barefoot.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy. That's the case. And you're also doing a breakout at our 8% conference this year.
Yes.
In Plano, July
Yes.
8th, 9th, and 10th.
Yes.
Which is super exciting. If you haven't got your tickets yet, 8percentnation.com. Larry's going to be there doing some additional teaching. What can they expect at your breakout session?
All right. So a little teaser is we're giving out 100 keys. And they're the keys to the kingdom.
Cool.
We have a friend of mine has been working on a project diligently for about 3 years.
Wow.
And I think this will get the attention of the industry at large. And we're starting with 50 seats that will be exclusive to people who are already part of my agency. And then there's be 100 seats, 100 keys. We're going to hand out USBs keys.
Wow.
And you got to beat the program. And those people will be able to participate through the rest of the year with us on we'll start with Medicare, but this will branch out to all lines of business pretty much. And I think it'll change lives. People want leads. People want people to talk to about insurance. You've never heard something this good.
Wow. Software related.
Yep, it's tech. It's
cool,
tech
man.
and
Tech.
the C-suite relationships that are making it happen from the top down.
Wow.
Okay?
I love it. I'm excited to see what that is.
Literally the federal government basically blessing off on this.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I've got to be at your breakout as well then,
Yeah.
right? Amazing. Also, if they want to learn more about what you guys do, what should they do? Where should they go?
Go to careers.becauseweprotect.com. That's careers, not www, but careers.becauseweprotect.com.
I love it. It's incredible. Well, thank you for being on the channel, bringing so much value, prepping, and dropping some amazing gold around retirement planning exit strategies for agents.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, man.
Thanks for your KABOOM Leads. They're awesome.
Thank you. Appreciate that. That's incredible. Also, thank you guys, man, for hanging with us and listening and learning today. I would love for you to think, man, what am I not doing that I heard today from Larry that I can be doing as I'm starting to really take this more like a business, like you can tell that Larry he studies, he's very knowledgeable, he's very intentional. He's here to help agents and agencies succeed. And he treats this like it's a business and it's real life, because it is. And so we're going to keep finding amazing guests to be on the podcast. Thanks for listening to this one, and we will see you on the next episode of the Power Player Podcast. Goodbye.